Hey everyone, I'm John from American Eagle Plumbing. Today we're going to be installing this toilet right here, and I'm going to kind of go through the process of how to install this particular toilet and how I personally prepare, get everything prepared so it sits right and I don't have any issues. Now in this video I'm going to be expressing what my opinions are, kind of what my 20 years of plus experience has taught me. So there's many different ways one can do this, but this one has worked for me for quite a long time. So let's get this thing installed and I'll show you how I do it. All right, so the key to a toilet installation, in my opinion, is going to be your preparation. So on this particular install, the old toilet has already been pulled and we're ready for the new one. But as you can see this white outline of like the old caulking. And we're going to do our best here to get rid of that because we're not entirely sure if the new toilet is going to cover it. So what I like to do is just take a razor blade and we're gonna try to scrape away real quick any of the remainder. Try to lift that up. And we got some of it coming up here. It's not gonna be perfect with the razor, but the better job we can do cleaning, the better job our final product will look. All right, now that we got everything scraped off that we could with our razor blade, there's still a little bit of old silicone that's sitting on the tile, and we're gonna try to get that lifted off. Now, what I like to use is a green Scotch pad, and then in this bottle is denatured alcohol. So we're just gonna give it a little bit of squirt it all the way around, right on the area. And then we're going to reuse this Scotch pad and we're going to lift up the little bit of silicone that's still left on the tile. This is going to give us basically a nice clean install. And we don't have to worry about ghosting because this is coming up really nice. It doesn't take a whole lot of pressure. And those lines have pretty much all but disappeared now. So once you got that all scrubbed up, take a rag, give that a good wipe. That alcohol will just evaporate whatever's left. And now you can't even tell where the old toilet's at. So we're ready for an install. The next step that I like to do, I'm going to install my toilet bolts. I like to use these set fast toilet bolts. And there's all different kinds of ways one can do that. But I like these because after I'm done, I won't have to use a saw I shouldn't have to use a saw to cut them. So we're gonna get these all set up properly, get our base. We're gonna go ahead and get our bolt in. There's a little nub on this bolt. So when we install it, it's gonna screw down into this adapter. And I shouldn't have to cut them when we're done. So we're going to go ahead and slip these in here. And we'll go ahead and do the other side. Make sure that we get this bolt put right side up into the unit because that nub is like a stop. And so once that nub reaches this part right here, it's going to just stop. So get this slid in here. Now, it's important when you set a toilet to have those bolts at the center. So I just kind of slid them where I think, and we're going to go ahead and measure from the baseboard to the center of the toilet flange. And in this particular case, it's about 11.5 inches. So we're going to go ahead and go over to the left and put this bolt at 11.5 inches. And then I'm going to push down on this little stop, and it's just going to kind of hold it in place for right now. And then we'll go ahead and do that to the right. Pretty much right on 11.5. We'll hold that there and push down on that stop. So our toilet bolts are kind of right in place. After that, you're going to take your wax ring. In this particular installation, we're only going to need one of these. and I'll show you how I do mine. Like I said, there's a bunch of different ways that you can do it, but I'm going to show you how I set my wax ring. But before I do that, I'm going to pull out the plug that I have here. This is just to block the sewer gas during the time that we've had the old toilet off. And get rid of that. And then we're going to go ahead and open this up and just pull this protective wrapping off. It can just peel off. There's a couple different kinds of wax rings. There's wax rings that have a plastic horn sitting on the inside of this. I particularly only like the only wax. So many times where I've seen the toilet leaking at the base of the toilet. So when you flush the toilet, there's water that comes out of here. I've pulled the toilet and it's been a wax ring with a horn in it. I don't really like that. And the reason being is because the wax ends up separating from the plastic horn. And so I think wax on the flange, wax on the bottom of the porcelain, I feel like that's an overall better seal. Again, my opinion. I like to set my toilet or my wax ring just like that to begin with, and give it a good firm kind of squish it down to the toilet flange. And then I put mine, I've been told, upside down, so with the fat part up. And the reason I like to do that is because then after I get it kind of in place, I'm going to go ahead and push over the wax to make sure I get a good seal to my toilet flange on the outside. And then give it a good seal. And then once I do that, I'm going to go ahead and do it to the inside. And break it. Push it to the inside. And so I'm going to seal it to the inside of the toilet flange. Now, for these particular wax or bolts, I like to take a little bit of wax and squeeze them. I move that, but I like to just, because they're not secure totally to the toilet flange, but I like to take a little bit of wax just so that they sit in place and don't move. I'll probably take a tape measure and make sure that it hasn't moved. It's still 11.5 inches from the baseboard, but that's pretty much how. And then I like to go like this, make sure my wax is a little bit of sticky so that when I set my toilet on it, it sticks to the bottom of the porcelain. So there we go. That's how I install my wax rings. All right, so now that we got our toilet bolt set and our wax ring on, now, and our floor cleaned, now is the time where we're going to set our bowl. So the next step is go ahead and uncrate your boxes, set everything aside, remove your boxes, clean up your workspace, and then you can bring in your bowl. Now what I like to do is just hold the bowl on the side, and we're going to just put this bowl right over the toilet bolts. So you're going to kind of hold it and straddle it over those bolts. Make sure that they're both on there. So once you know that you have both bowls on, just go ahead and give it a good push. And then you can start checking it for levelness and straightness. Now, I like to use a little torpedo level, kind of right. Your most level spot is going to be right by your bowl. So my line just touches the left side. I'm pretty happy with that. And then I'm going to check it for straightness. Now, how I check it for straightness is just by using a tape measure. I'm going to assume that our wall is relatively straight. I'm going to look at the wall to this bolt for the tank. It's 4 3/4. That's 4 3/4. So there's no adjustment needed. It's pretty straight. There's nothing else to do. So now that I know my toilet bowl is level, the other way you can check it is right here on the side. Again, I'm pretty happy with that. There's nothing that, it's not too far out of alignment. Give it a little wiggle. Floor is pretty solid. There's not any kind of shims that we need to install. So we're going to go ahead and install our bolts. So when we install our bolts, there should be a set of caps and a couple washers. So this is why it's handy to have everything kind of at the ready. So we're going to go ahead and remove that out of the bag, throw the bag away. These two particular pieces we're going to go ahead and throw away. This is if you use a tubular water supply, which we're not. We're going to use a stainless steel braided water supply. We're going to just throw these away as well. Not needed. What we want are these washers right here at the moment. I'm going to slide these caps off to the side. It's probably not able to be seen, but it says this side up. So there's a flat side, and then there's like a beveled side, so the bevel side goes up. Slip those over first, all the way down. I'm going to slip this over on the other side, making sure the bevel side is up again. Set that down. And then the rest of the bolts, we're going to have a washer and a nut. So we're going to go ahead and do one washer and one nut on each side. And we're going to tighten that down. So one washer, one nut. Go ahead and tighten this down. Now, this is going to hit that little nub that I talked about earlier. So there won't be any excess bolts sticking up. So when we're done tightening this down, I should just be able to snap those caps on and the bowl will be set. I like to use a little crescent wrench. This crescent wrench is kind of my friend when setting a toilet. You can use a nut driver, but I feel like I have a little bit more control personally with a crescent wrench. So I like to alternate each side, making sure each side is tightened evenly. A lot of this is by feel, knowing how tight to set a toilet bowl. So some of that comes from, actually most of it comes from experience. I've been plumbing for 20 years. Thankfully, I've never broken a toilet bowl when setting it. But if you over tighten it, you definitely can break the china. The other way to know that it's kind of tight is, I feel like that's pretty well snug on both sides. Your plastic washer is going to start to mushroom up a little bit, which is fine. Is to go ahead and wiggle your bowl. Make sure the bowl doesn't rock, which in this case, we checked it with a level. Everything was pretty level. And so that's how everything's going to tighten down pretty evenly. So now that that's done, I'm going to go ahead and snap our white covers over, just like that. That bevel holds that cap in place. And so that's why you want that bevel facing up so it snaps over it. So right now our bowl is set onto the tank. Next step in the toilet process is we got to get this tank ready to go on the bowl. So we have our tank to bowl nuts and bolts right here. And we're going to go ahead and rip open the package, pull everything out, and then we're going to start putting it together. So set it down on the ground in front of you so you can see exactly what you got. Each side gets a bolt and a washer. So go ahead and slip that washer right on all the way to like that. And then we're going to reach inside, and what we're going to want to do is put this bolt through these holes right there on each side, on the small holes. So I'm going to do that. Make sure our bolt goes through. And then on this particular toilet, all toilets are a little bit different, but on this particular toilet, this is how it goes. Put a washer on the back side of it, and then you thread on a nut all the way, and you're going to make that nice and snug. And what you're doing is you're creating a watertight seal on the inside, because you're going to be pressing that rubber washer with the bolt. You're going to kind of squeeze it or pinch it, creating a watertight seal. You can either take a nut driver again or a crescent wrench. On this particular one, I'm going to take a 1/2 inch crescent wrench. I'm going to slip that over. I'm going to give it a couple good turns and make sure that that's nice and snug and squeezed on the inside. And then we're just going to go ahead and repeat the process on the other side. washer on the bolt. Bolt goes through the other side. On this side, the toilet fill valve, which is this guy right here, or on the inside of the tank, is going to be this device right here. Kind of a little tough to get in on some toilet tanks, so kind of got to finesse your hand in and around. But then again, your washer, and then a nut, and tighten it down. Now that we got the two toilet tank bolts connected and the washers, we're going to go ahead and put the toilet gasket over the flush valve, which is the device that lets the water through the tank into the bowl. And that's what the flapper sits on. So we're kind of looking at it right in here. So this is our trip lever. This is what you push to flush your toilet. This lifts up, allowing the water to go through this flush valve or through this opening down into your bowl, through this opening down into your bowl, and this creates the seal in between the tank and the bowl. Once we got our toilet tank all set up, we're going to go ahead, it's now time to set it to the bowl. So we're going to just lift it up. I like to rest my elbows kind of on the bowl, and that allows me to get underneath and guide those bolts through the holes in the back. Make sure everything lines up, and then that tank will sit pretty much by itself for right now, because we're going to have to install, we got washers and nuts that actually hold it and secure it to the bowl. So we're going to go ahead and get those installed. So one washer, one nut. On the back side, I like to just kind of hand tight, because we want to make sure when we tighten it down, it's pretty even. So I got a couple threads on the one side. Now we'll go ahead and do the left side. A lot of this I do by feel, just because I've done it so many times. But you can go ahead and get your head underneath there and take a look and see what you're doing. So now it's completely by look. So my goal is to get it to be flat, level, and kind of, I'll be using my level here in a second, but getting it to kind of sit down evenly. So I'm going to again use my 1/2-inch nut driver. I'm going to go ahead and tighten each side down a little bit at a time, and then I like to use my level just to make sure that my toilet tank is sitting level. That way I know which side I got to tighten more. So in this case, I got to tighten my right side down. It's a little high. Now this toilet tank, that gasket will squish in between, and then it will sit on this ridge right here. That's when you know that you got it nuts tight. In this particular case, I got to loosen up my left side, because here I can still fit something through. There's still a gap, plus it's not level, or it wasn't. Go ahead and check this out. Perfect. And underneath, both sides are touching the china, so we're good to go. Now that we got the toilet all together, we got the tank connected to the bowl, we're going to go ahead and hook up the water supply line. I like these in particular because they have a 3-crimp seal on the stainless steel braid. I always remove the little tags. I think that looks the best when installing them. So this just threads to the bottom left-hand side of the tank. It's kind of hard to see in the video, but I'm going to go ahead and do that and turn the water on. Your toilet seat. So this is a Toto brand toilet seat, slow close, plastic. Very nice toilet seat. What we're going to do is, this particular seat has a couple rubber bumpers that sit in between the china and the seat. So we're going to go ahead and open this up to get out our little gaskets. Once we get those out, these rubber gaskets go right over the or I guess a bumper, and just kind of stick in there. They have little nubs that keep it in place. And then there's little covers that you're going to need to pop open because your toilet bolts they're hidden. So we're going to open that up. Set your seat on the bowl, and then your toilet seat is kind of adjustable. So when looking at your front rim of the bowl, I kind of like to make that as even as possible. And then you're going to grab your toilet bolt, stick that through, stick it through on the other side. And for this particular toilet seat, the beveled edge goes up. And we're going to go ahead and tighten these down, and our toilet seat will be installed. All right, toilet seat's installed, secure. We're going to go ahead and turn the water on to the toilet and let that fill up, because we're going to check and make sure that everything is good, sealed, not leaking, before we seal up the space in between the bowl and the floor. We're going to do that with some silicone. So once we flush it a couple times and make sure that it's good, we're going to seal it up. And the reason we put that seal on is just really it's so that nothing can get from outside underneath the toilet, and nothing from like if the drain would back up, the drain or the sewage can't come. This particular toilet is the Toto Drake 2 model. I like this toilet because of the tornado style flushing. The water jets are on the side, and when it flushes, it creates a tornado style flush. So we're going to go ahead and get that flush to see how that goes, and it's going to clear out the bowl real good, create less sticking, and just less maintenance. So these are one of my favorite. Recommend them to all of my clients and friends and family. And this toilet is now complete. The only thing left to do is seal up at the bottom of the bowl, and we're done. When caulking and sealing the toilet, there's a couple different things that I like to do. You can use DAP, which is water-based. I've seen mortar, which I don't recommend. I've seen putty, which I don't recommend. I like to use personally silicone, 100% silicone, and I just feel like it does a great job of creating a watertight seal between the bowl and the floor. And then we're just gonna create a nice bead all the way around, making sure we fill in those little gaps and cracks. And then once we got a full bead all the way around, we're going to spray the silicone with denatured or rubbing alcohol. And the rubbing alcohol does not allow the silicone to smear everywhere. That's my little trick. So now that I pretty much got everything caulked, I'm going to go ahead and take my rubbing alcohol and just spray it at the base. And this is going to let me clean up the silicone real good. Grab a rag and I take my index finger and press real good, so I'm lifting most of that silicone off, and then it just sticks to my finger. And then I just go ahead and wipe that, and then complete everything all the way around the toilet. Thanks for watching, everybody. I hope you enjoyed this video. Just one thing to keep in mind: if you do use silicone, make sure you let that set for probably 2 to 4 hours, and you can go ahead and use the toilet right away. It's ready to go. But the reason I say that is I just want to make sure you don't get silicone on your clothes if they happen to brush up against it. That 2 to 4 hours will let the silicone develop a sheen or a little bit of hardness, and if it gets bumped or smudged, it won't stick to your clothes. I'm John from American Eagle Plumbing. Thanks again. Please like, subscribe, and share this video if you've enjoyed it.